Hey guys, Sandy here, and today I am actually pulling out my art journal, and I'm going to do a page in it. Now my art journal isn't fancy by any means. It's just a place where I get out my thoughts and my feelings. This is about not crying anymore over something that I couldn't handle. This page is not finished. And this is more like a scrapbook page where I share my love of the Haunted Mansion in Disney World. This one's not finished. Either is this one. Either is this one. This one is going to be about my son. This one is not finished. And then I have a whole bunch of blank ones. This one is not finished. I'm not sure if this is finished or not. But today I am going to get to playing and use this photo in my art journal. And this is a poor photo. It's grainy. It wasn't well lit. But I just have some words I want to get down about my husband, so it's going to go in here. Hope you'll join me. So I get started by mixing some Liquitex Basics white and I believe magenta, and it turns out to be this pink color. And I basically dry brush it into my art journal. I'm not, I don't wet the brush, I don't wet the page, it's just dry brushing. And I do like the streaks and the brush marks, but they don't stay. Alright, so I set that aside to dry, and then I'm pulling out some stencils, and I start with this Aero Dilution stencil, and I realize that I'm going to have to take off my bracelet because it's getting in the way. And I'm just going to use some Distress inks and just do that. And don't worry, I'm not going to show you the entire process of me stenciling. But I do like this bright pink color against the other pink. It's just starting to build up a little bit of layers in that journal. So I'm showing you that I'm going to use this stencil next. It's a 12 by 12 stencil. I believe it is a Heidi Swapp stencil. I've had it forever. It was probably the first stencil I ever purchased. And I'm mixing some silver Liquitex liquid ink with my Liquitex Basics acrylic paint, and I mix that up. And it doesn't really turn silver, but there's an ever so slight shimmer in it. I mean, it's slight. I probably would have had the same results at the end had I not even done that step, but I did it, so that's what happened. And then I take a dauber and I just daub it all throughout there, just creating another layer in my background. And I just tap, like, just a little bit. I don't want it to be like super thick. And at first I tap and then I start to swirl it, and then it mixes the color up a little bit, and I like that. I like the lighter pink. So then I decide to get my matte medium, and I've torn some tissue paper, some EXO tissue paper that I believe came... Some kind of kit club had a sale, and I bought some past kits. I believe it was the Hit Kit Club. And I'm just going to layer that up with some matte gel medium, and it's sticking down, and it almost goes transparent, and I'm really liking that. So most of my art journal pages end up kind of looking like scrapbooking pages. It's just the way I like to decorate it, but I do get my thoughts out, so that's always good. So I'm using these stencils here, and I'm just daubing it around, and then you can see the design through it. And I like this, and it's just yet another layer that is going on in the background. So I'm really happy with this and the way it's turning out. and I'm going to do it all across the 2 pages. It's going to be kind of random, and I turn the stencil a little bit so I'm not getting the same exact stenciled look everywhere in the page. And then I realized my bracelet's on yet again, so I had to take it off. I did this art journal page over hours and a couple days waiting for things to dry, so that's why I'm taking off the bracelet twice, if you wonder. Right, and then I pull out this doily-like stencil, and I'm actually going to use a real doily on this page, so that was that under there. So I'm just going to go ahead and do up this guy as well, and we'll do him across a couple pages too. Man, I wish I could stencil that quick in real life. Okay, so I'm flipping through my Tim Holtz, and I decide to use the dots. I believe this is the step I'm using. Nope, using flowers. And what color am I using here? I'm using the other blue. And then when the blues and pinks get together, they turn into purple. So I've got all kinds of pinks, blues, and purples going on here. And this is where I grab the dots. And I'm actually using Stays On ink because I don't want the dots to blend with anything else that I do on the page. If I add another layer, or I didn't want it to blend with the layers underneath of it. So I'm just using that Stays On ink and randomly placing the dots, and it's just about over the entire page, and I use the thicker dots and the thinner dots just to give it a little bit of interest. Alright, so at this point I'm kind of not sure where to go. So I spray out some Distress and mix it with a water brush, and I'm going to go ahead and use these resist items, and then this is where I started getting stuff all over my fingers, so I try to blot it off so I can actually pick it up. And then it's kind of pale, and I'm thinking I'm just going to leave it that way for a little bit, and then I just go for it with it right on top, and I like the darker a lot. But I'm realizing that this is really green and doesn't really go with the pinks and the blues and the purples on the page. So I'm going to actually add some of this green color right onto the page. I'm also going to darken up the happy word to kind of go with that darker thing on the I adore you. So I'm just like painting some of this Distress stain onto the page, and it's just giving a little bit of that green, like just kisses of it throughout the page. And my dots, since they're in Stays On, are definitely not going anywhere, so I'm happy that the dots are good. And I didn't I didn't actually plan that I was going to spray right on that nonstick sheet, and I ended up overspraying everywhere. It was on my bookshelf, on the table, on the trimmer. I had to clean off everything afterwards, and now I'm just making sure that there's no more green in the brush. And I decided to just flip my entire journal over on it and sop up the Distress ink. And this is where it really starts to blend. The green actually blends in with the other colors and starts to make pretty cool, fun colors. And I just blot it dry a little bit, and then I spray over it and smoosh it together. I don't know, that was my drying technique with waving a paper towel over top of it. And then I had made those splats by doing a Distress stain, just like smacking it down on the book, but I apparently forgot to turn on the camera when I had done that. So now I'm actually going to stick down my picture, and I'm putting it down with matte gel medium. And I'm doing a couple little layered pieces. Like I said, my art journals look a lot like scrapbooks. So I get that guy on there as well, and the matte gel medium has already really like stuck, and that little label has already pulled off a little bit of the doily, but you really can't tell because it's underneath the photo. So I'm good with that, and I just take the little daubers out of my little square distress inks and put some more color on top of that little scalloped die cut thing there, because it's like stark green and I want it to blend just a little bit more. And then I decide that I'm going to glue the happy over top of the die cut, and then I'm going to daub that guy too. I just need it to blend just ever so slightly more. And I'm looking at this, and I definitely know I want to put some journaling over on this left-hand side of the page. And I don't have a very thick pen to do this with, so I end up using a chisel tip Copic, and it's a little bit thicker than I want, but I'm going to go with it. I mean, this is my art journal. Even though I say I scrapbook for myself, the scrapbooks are for everyone to enjoy and look at. The art journal is really just for me and for you if you're watching this. So I go ahead and brush some matte gel medium around, and I even brush it on the photo a little bit because the photo is kind of glossy and I want to tone it down ever so slightly. And then I set that aside to dry, and I make a huge mistake next, like huge. So here it comes. So I decide that I'm going to use some of this Bow Bunny glitter paste. I have it in a couple colors. I'm super excited. I haven't done anything with it yet. And I decide that I'm going to put some stars on, like artfully arrange some stars around the photo and then over on the other side. And I've got this like plan in my head of how it's going to look, but I didn't count on the glitter paste being thin, and I really didn't have control over my stencil. So they look like splotchy circles. So I just smooth it out and wipe a bunch of it off. And I'm like, something's got to go on top of there. I don't know what, but something's got to go on top of there. Because this big black splotchy thing is not looking that great. So I look around for a few minutes, and I grab another Tim Holtz stencil, and I grab my Heidi Swap silver texture paste type stuff, and I just decide to do a layer over the black swatchy thing, and then I'm going to place it in some other places on the page too, just to bring that silver throughout. And I figured the silver was the best way to go because way down in one of those layers there's some silvery white texture stuff going on. And then even this, I wasn't very careful, and at this point I was frustrated, and I had some bleed through for this as well, but it's done. The page is done, and that's good. Alright guys, thanks for watching. This was my first ever art journal process video. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys another day. Bye.